Haha.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Web Designers AMA. I'm Diane Whitten from SQUAREKICKER Creative, and I am here with Katelyn Dekle from Launch the Damn Thing. Yes, that is her business name and one of the reasons we love her. I want to do a quick intro into Katelyn because I have followed her content for years because she is hands down one of the smartest people I have ever met or talked to or heard from or read content from when it comes to Squarespace and web design. And we see totally eye to eye when it comes to customer experience, design principles, marketing, and so many other things, even though we run our businesses very differently, which we'll get into today, juicy stuff. But I'm so grateful that she's here with me today. When I told her I had this crazy idea to do YouTube lives, she was the first person I asked because I wanted to have her brilliance on the channel. So thank you so much for being here, Katelyn. I so appreciate it. One more quick shout out. Stick around till the end. We're going to talk about a really cool free 3-day event where Katelyn and I both learned a lot about web design. So yeah, it's very fun. But anyway, Katelyn, thank you so much for being here. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me, Diane.
Yes. So first off, so just tell us a little bit about you and your story and why launch the damn thing, and just give us an intro into you and your business.
So like the whole book, right?
Yeah, everything.
9 to 5, didn't like building somebody else's dream. I was under a previous like studio, kind of like, I say that like I'm wearing a blazer today because I'm cold, but like professional vibes, you know?
Right.
It didn't last. I didn't like being that person all the time. So eventually I decided I would create, because I had lots of time when I got laid off from COVID. It was like a furlough situation. Had lots of time. So I decided I'm going to build a template shop because I have an audience for that, right? No. And I was going to name the template shop Launch the Damn Thing because that made sense. That's how I felt when I got ready to launch my website. And so I don't know, it just kind of stuck. It was totally by accident.
How cool. I didn't know that was kind of birthed from the idea of a template shop. That really makes sense for a template shop of just go for it, like dive in. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So after figuring the name, that I was like, actually, I'm way more comfortable showing up in that business than I was in my studio business. And so I ended up merging them after that.
Very cool. And your background, so you started, before you even were doing website design, you were still doing graphic design because you started print design in 2006, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Long time ago.
We've been doing this since 2006. Yeah, we realized that when we were setting up this interview. Crazy.
Yeah, so we're bad at math, but that's like what, 38 years of combined. Oh my God. I don't even know what to think about that.
I know, me too. We had the same moment. So anyway, lots of good stuff. So a little backstory. So one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is we have all these discussions about web design and clients and boundaries and client processes, because being a freelancer and running your own web design business is like, it's a solitary enterprise. And it's a lot of times you're like, am I doing this right? Or even in the best way? Like, I need help. So Katelyn has a group. It's like a really small, intimate mastermind. She calls it the club, and I'm in there. And so every month we have a call and we all get into like the nitty gritty of how we deal with clients and how we draw boundaries. And like, there's this balance that you're always trying to achieve between keeping clients happy so that you get referrals and repeat businesses and can stay in business, you know, right. And like staying sane and, you know, having free time and having like creative energy for your own projects. Mm-hmm. And we talk about that a lot. So when we got the idea to do this together, I was like, this is the dirt. Like, let's dive into like how we deal with clients and like, how we draw boundaries and stuff. So anyway, did you have things specifically that you wanted to talk about with that first?
No, we can just dive in. I do want to say, for whoever's live, if you have a question, how do you want to answer that? Do you want to do that like along the way, or do you think we should save time at the end?
Oh, that's a really good question. Obviously, this is learning. So is this your first live too, Katelyn?
For YouTube, yeah.
Look, see, it's just new things all over the place. So, look at you guys. Oh, I love you guys. Look at Megan. The dream team is live. I love you guys. This is awesome. Oh, you guys are so awesome. My therapy group, Andrea, she's in Katelyn's club too. So much fun. Yeah. Thank you all. I love you guys.
Yes.
So many of my people. Thank you. So, okay. So let's talk about, you want to talk about getting clients first and like marketing and how to get clients? Let's do that. Let's talk about getting the clients and then we'll move into how to keep the clients happy. How's that sound?
Yeah, and we can keep an eye on the chat. If we see something that's relevant to the thing we're talking about, we'll go ahead and do it, and then
Yeah.
anything else we'll tackle at the end.
Yes, perfect. Sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. So marketing. So what's your main way of getting clients so you stay busy and have like that constant inflow of business?
Definitely has always been SEO, like content creation for me.
Mhm.
Very quick and easy.
I was going to say that's quick and easy, but that's not detailed enough. You know, I'm going to push you. So you blog.
I
That's your
tried all
content.
the 57 things. I did Pinterest for a long time, never saw any clients after that. I did Facebook for a while, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok even.
Oh,
Yeah. None of those were client drivers for me. It's not a fit. I'm not natural at it. I think that's part of the like the vibe that I'm sending out into the universe when I use those platforms. They're like, oh, that feels uncomfortable. Don't do that.
right.
So blogging and YouTube is way better for me.
Very cool. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. If we use a medium that doesn't fit with us, it's got those vibes of like I should be doing this. I'm ticking it off my. This is my chore.
Yeah.
I'm ticking off my to-do list, and we don't. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't do it
Not
well.
excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so talk a little bit about the blogging. How did you come up with topics? Yeah, how did you kind of find your niche in that?
That's a good question. In the beginning, it was kind of like, what are the kinds of things that clients have not understood in the past from like a one-on-one being an employee as an in-house designer kind of situation, because that's really all I knew. So that was the only option, right? Those were the only people that I had heard questions from that I could solve answers, whatever.
Mhm.
So it was stuff like the difference between CMYK and RGB, like earth-shattering, I know.
Right.
And then, there was, like, the difference between vector and raster files for designers.
Yeah.
And then I would create a freebie that was, like, a little one-page checklist of, like, "Is my design file gonna piss off the designer? Is it inside of a Word doc?" You know, those kinds of things. So it
Yes.
started really foundational level of, like, just graphic design type stuff, and then it migrated into answering questions that are more broad, like, does Google know you exist? How do you
Mm,
apply colors in Squarespace? Those kinds of things. So it's
very cool.
all over the board.
Very cool. Yeah, and so you really moved into a niche with Squarespace because I would say now that you're one of the top experts on Squarespace, just like how to get Squarespace to do the thing I want it to do. I feel like your blog is just like full of those gems, and that just came like with time and experience and
Yeah.
doing things for clients and doing research and yeah.
Yeah, because I was on Weebly for a whole year before I went to Squarespace.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I guess I did because we've talked about how you and I both have tried all the platforms.
Ancient history. Yeah, that was like 2015.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is obvious, but you just want to mention why you didn't stick with Weebly?
Yes, it's obvious, and I no, I do not recommend. Oh my god, so many things. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, Squarespace is better. We love
Yes,
Squarespace. It's
loads.
not the only platform, but we are clearly Squarespace fans here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to underline something you said because I think it's important. So when you are looking for blog fodder, I agree that's where my most successful blogs. I had a super successful blog that was like why you can't pick your photos off of Google, like just like explaining the
Mhm.
things that clients know before they come to you and the things that you have to tell every client. Like that's always, I think, a good place to mine for SEO
Yeah.
content, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. Um, awesome. Very fun. Um, yeah, that's funny. I try blogging. I can do it sporadically, but I'm a social media girl. Again, one of the ways that Caitlyn and I are so different. Yeah, we have more people in the chat who are on Weebly. Yeah. Yeah, Squarespace is awesome. So do 100% of your clients come from SEO?
If it's not 100%, it's very close.
Wow, very cool. And you just blog once a week?
Once a week. I started every other week. I did that for 2, maybe 3 years. I think in 2019, I switched to once weekly.
Mhm.
And then when I got furloughed, I tried twice weekly. I lasted at that for about 6 or 8 months before I burned out and was like, "I have no more ideas. This is way too frequent." Went back to once a week, and I've been once a week ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2,000 words ish.
that's conservative, yes. I am long-winded.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Yeah, your blog posts are a study in how to do whatever the task is. You go all the way through it. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of the other reasons I followed you. So, okay, awesome. So, okay, so that's how to get the clients.
yeah.
Now let's talk about how to keep the clients happy. This is like the thing that we talk about a lot in the group because I think there's so much people are always wondering like how do I keep clients happy without being exhausted and doing a million drafts and all these other things. So talk a little bit about like what are your pillars or your main systems that you have in place to like just for client processes.
Um, that's a big big, well-rounded topic. I do not allow email to me related to the project while it's happening. It's just too hard for me to fish through my inbox and find this sentence and this email with a different subject line and this other and different. So I don't allow that. That's a big one. I do not give them my phone number at all, ever, under any circumstances. No WhatsApp, no Voxer, no Slack, none of that.
Okay.
I've got too many notifications in general. I do not also need those as well. I have a support ticketing system. So after the project is over, we can put them into that. But even that's like email based and more rigid and regimented than you might think. And then in the portal, they have like a very dedicated area for communication with me. They know at every turn what the deadline is, they know what to expect all the time. I'm constantly reminding them, like, hey, we have a call coming up, or hey, you have a deadline coming up. So they really can't forget what they're supposed to do because I'm on their side, but I'm also in the process reminding them at every stage.
That's it's so funny that that's just one of the other areas where you and I are like polar opposites. Because I'm like, if you can't keep up with your to-do list, I don't, I don't know what to tell you. I don't talk to them, I don't babysit them. I'm like,
Yeah,
you get me your stuff by the deadline and I work with what I've got. And if you didn't get me anything,
moving on.
I'm starting with what I have, which is competitor research and your social media posts, which
Yeah.
that's great. Um, I can build a fantastic website with just that. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm the same way, no emails. I do let them email me for some things, but I don't do emails for feedback because that's when it gets insane because just
Yeah.
every time that they get a thought in their head, they shoot off an email and then you're searching for, in
30.
25 different
Yeah.
threads. And yeah, it's insane. So no
Yeah.
emails. I agree with that. And you do the 2-week process, right?
Mhm.
That's another
Yes.
way we differ. Okay, so talk about the 2-week process a little bit because you learned this from the boot
Paige.
camp that we'll talk about at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sounded awesome to me because I have done as a freelancer alongside my full-time job, I was doing work over a period of months. And I realized about myself that I am no longer excited about the project after week 2 or 3. I don't wanna do it anymore. I wanna move on to something else. I'm done with that design style, that personality, whatever. I can love them all day long, but I want a different project. So, that fit really well for me because it allowed me to kind of like, "Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Get it off of my desk, like, go away, bother somebody else." And so, the process is basically like kickoff call on the first Monday, homepage draft by Wednesday, website draft by that first Friday. The following Monday to Wednesday are revision days. Launch prep is Thursday. Launch day is Friday. That's a typical 2-week, and it is exactly on that timeline every time I have a 2-week project.
That's amazing to me. It's like a freak of nature. I don't know how people can. I tried so hard to make this work and I just could not. It just doesn't fit in my brain. It's a whole thing. And I do design days and design 2 days, which
Yeah.
I like. I can be hardcore for like a day or two, but that 2 weeks of like just the constant, I mean, I gotta I gotta
but it's the
write
only
some.
one, right? So I'm
That's
only
true.
focused on the one. Yeah.
That's
There's not
true.
like you're juggling multiples. That
That's
would be
true.
hard.
Okay, so this is an interesting neurodivergent thing because I bet this is part of why our brains are different, right? Because I don't like to work on one thing. I want to have the variety in the middle of my day, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind projects dragging on. I just want to have more than one thing I'm doing in a day, especially for 2 weeks, at a time.
Mhm.
So, but you want to do it all, like focus on the single thing and then move on to
Yeah.
something else.
I'm very project oriented, so I don't wanna finish something like, I don't wanna stop doing something until it's done. So this
Mhm.
works really well for my brain where I can start until I'm done, and then I'm done, and then I can move on to the next thing and focus on that.
Right,
I'm the same
right.
way with TV shows. If I start a TV series, I'm gonna watch it until it's dead, even if it sucks. Same thing with books. It's a weird, like, I don't know, idiosyncrasy or something.
That's so funny.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so how do you keep clients? Okay, so it works for you. The 2 weeks works for you, which is great. How do you keep clients in the 2 weeks? Because I imagine you get pushback. I've never met a client who, like, wants to go live. No pushback. I
No
don't believe
pushback.
it. Say more about that.
Never. The only time that the schedule has almost been adjusted is, like, death of a family member
Oh,
for me or for a client when we had to reschedule for, like, acts of God kind of situation.
of course. Yeah.
But no, the clients that I've worked with, I tell them on the discovery call, it's again in the proposal, there's, like, a literal table where it says, "Week 1, this is what we're doing.
Mhm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Week 2, Monday to like, all the way to Friday," so they know what happens on every day. I think they really like it because it's fast, like, they can get a totally custom build in 2 weeks. I mean, I can't typically it's a booked out process, right? So when they actually inquire versus when we get started,
Right.
there's a time gap there, but when we get started, they know we're all in for 2 weeks, but then it's done, and so I think they kinda like that, actually.
That's cool. And yeah, if they know it's signing up, then that's one of the benefits that they're
Yeah.
actually interested in. So
Mhm.
that's one of the selling points.
Yeah, and it's reiterated in the proposal, in the contract, in the, like, welcome packet that they get after they make the first payment. It's like it's over and over and over again reinforced, and I've done it so many times now that I don't like I said, I don't and nobody, like, nobody ever has a problem with it. They don't say anything about it, they don't complain about it, they just do it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's awesome. You've got a lot of people in the chat who are saying that they're like you too. Bloom says she's like you too, like the same, that your brain works the same way, wants to do it and just go to the end. And I'm like,
I love
no,
that.
mix it up. Like I want to do all kinds of things in my day. Um, okay, so very, very, very cool. So I wanted to ask you more about that 2 week process because it's really interesting, but I don't remember what else I was going to ask. If you guys are curious about the 2 week process, let me know. And I'm more traditional, just web designer. I just, clients come in. Sometimes if they have a launch date that they want to do, oh, I remember what it was. How long do you give them to fill out the intake information?
Minimum of 2 weeks because it's pretty you know what it looks like. It's pretty intense.
It is.
I
It's a
have
lot.
a, like, 30-ish questionnaire to get, like, personality kind of information, basic business information, basic style information, and then that's just what they do. It's not busy work because I do need that information, but that's
Mhm.
what they do while I set up their portal access, and then when they get access to that, there's SEO basic information. There is, like, a user
Mhm.
journey, and then content guides for each page. So
Mhm.
it's a lot. So I tell them it's gonna take them comfortably 2-ish weeks minimum to fit that into their other life because I fully realize this is not becoming their full-time job leading up to our project.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, right? Yeah, we've got to consider the client's perspective too.
Yeah.
Um, I want to get geeky from a designer's perspective. So, do you ask for that like personality information for every client that like and the brand personality information from every client?
Yep.
And that's because that's one of your that's a part of your USP too, right?
Yes.
Is because it's
Yes.
personality pack design. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's your
So
tagline.
the thing that I seem to be really good at, because I was always in college, we had to like pick uh local businesses to redesign or something for projects. And so I would have to like put myself in their shoes, what would make sense for them. As an in-house designer, whatever client walked through the door, that's what we did for them. It wasn't ever like coming to me for my design style.
Mhm.
And so to be frank, I don't really know what my design style is because I've been forced to be so adaptable over the past 18 years.
Right.
And so I realized that I'm actually pretty good at that, designing for them, for their like to fit their style. And I don't know, it just kind of evolved into like, let me put your personality and your vibe into the website and it'll feel like you. So it's almost like whatever they would do if they had my skill set.
Very cool. Very cool. And if we have time, we were going to do a screen share and look at a couple of your sites because I think one of the things you're exceptionally good at is using texture on a site to create visual interest. Texture is one of those things from a design perspective. When you use it intentionally, it helps guide people through. I'm a big proponent of guiding people through a three-dimensional journey on your site. Don't
Yeah.
like put a visual brochure up there on the web. Like you're forcing people to like click
Mhm.
around to find what they want. Like you want to guide them through a journey,
Yeah.
and texture creates that. It's literally a mental bubble wrap popping the bubble wrap feeling
Yeah.
when you go through a site, and you can literally use that to guide people to click buttons and move through sections and create their path, their customer path for them. So I
Yeah.
think you're really good at that. So we'll
Thank
look at
you.
some of your designs if we have time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So Andrea had a question. Have you ever used, let me see if I can, I'm
Throw it
still
up.
learning StreamYard, you guys. Bear with me. How do I add,
There you
oh,
go.
yes.
Yeah.
So Andrea had a question. Have you ever used a content writer? And if so, do you still have them fill out the questionnaire with the content writer? It's a great question.
I haven't, but I've had clients that hired a copywriter before they came on and did the project with me. And so in that case, I did just because I kind of wanted to see the difference between what they would tell me and what they told them. We mostly ended up using what the copywriter ended up like writing for them because it was awesome. They picked a really good copywriter. So you know what you're doing. You don't need any of that stuff, really.
How funny.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Man, if somebody has a copywriter, like I don't even ask them questions. I'm like, dump it all on the Google Drive and go away. Like, leave me alone. Let me do my thing.
Well, to be fair, the copywriter can give me the content, right? Like the text, but I still need everything else. And so I was just like, if you know you've answered that for her, like bypass it and just move on. So that's what she did.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, so Rachel says, let me do this again. I have the same confusion with my style and adaptable to express client vision. So unsure of my own style niche. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
identify with that, Caitlin?
I do. I do very much. It's so easy for me to jump in and like design like Diane or design like Rach of Square Stylist or design like Paige Breton. Like it's just easier for me to do that. And I've just done that for so long. When I do my own stuff, I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know what I'm doing."
How funny. So since we're kind of migrating naturally, let's talk a little bit about design inspiration and design trends and things like that. Because you
Okay.
and I have had we've had some interesting discussions behind the scenes about trends and where we get our inspiration and stuff. So you want to
Yeah,
jump in first?
sure. Um, People ask that a fair amount. Where do I look for design inspiration?
Mhm.
I don't really do that. When I work with clients, the inspiration that I get is from their Pinterest board, and that's supposed to just kind of a roundup of like, um, if your brand were a space like that people could like a lobby people could walk into, what would you want it to feel like? What kind of textures would you have in there? What kind of furniture? Would you have art on the wall? Would you have signs on the wall, neon signs? Would you have like give me a picture of what it would look like if you could create the perfect space. And that's where I get my inspiration from because sometimes they'll pin florals, like sometimes they'll pin texture, like metallic textures, and sometimes they'll neon lights. I mean, like animal prints, you name it. That's where I get my design inspiration from. And then based on their personal style. So one of the questions in the workbook that they fill out in the beginning is picking adjectives that match like the vibe that they want. And so I use that in combination with the visuals they tell me. And that kind of prevents them from having to describe to me in words what they want because most clients are terrible at that. They don't need to use that terminology on a day-to-day basis. They don't know how to form a proper description. They don't know what minimalism means or like humanist or boho. Like they don't know
Right.
any of that. So I
Right.
get all of that from the other stuff and literally kind of reading between the lines. So I don't really do design inspiration, which is part of why I don't follow trends because I'm not looking at what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. That's so interesting. I have so many things I want to say on that. So first I have a question.
Yeah.
So uh when you're asking clients, so this is part of my thing. So okay, so a little bit of my process. And one of the reasons we wanted to do this today was because we're so all the things that we agree on when it comes about down to website design, we're completely different on in the way we run our businesses and interact with clients. Um, I have had the experience so many times where I ask a client, and I always ask a client, like, how do you want your brand to feel? How do you want your
Yeah.
website to feel to your visitors and things like that? I have some of those questions on my questionnaire, but I'm like, you don't have to answer any of these because I don't know that I believe you anyway. Because I have had so many questions, times where a client would be like, oh, I really want it to be like edgy and like I want it to have like a vibe and I love neons and this whole thing, but they wanted like pastel and polka dots. And I'm like, what? So do you have that ever where a client is like, you don't have that either. You have these miracle clients where they can articulate what they want.
Miracle clients. Yes, because I'm not asking them to describe it to me. I think that's the ultimate problem. They
Yeah.
just don't know how to tell us what they want. They
Uh-huh.
only know how to show us what they like. And
Yeah.
so we can kind of pick and choose from that. And I just tell them to pin as much as possible because if they have 30 or more pins, I can start to see patterns like there's a lot of floral in here, or there's a lot of rose
Right.
gold, or there's a lot of serif fonts or whatever.
Right.
And so that
Yeah.
helps.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see that. I think my version of that is asking them for the 3 websites or
Yeah.
more, but the
Mhm.
websites that they love and then articulate what you loved about each website. And then I'll see those things too. They can do a Pinterest board for me if they want to, but they don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay. And Walter asks, what about images? What's the percentage of pics you get from clients versus the ones you find or create with AI or whatever? Yeah.
That's a good question. The images typically, I don't know, that really varies pretty wildly. Like when I've worked with 2 boudoir photographers, all of their images came from them because obviously they can take their own photos. They have lots of photos of their clients for their portfolio, those kinds of things. No AI pictures at all. That's more your
Yeah.
more your realm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that I am missing, I will ask them for like headshots or something if they refuse. Some clients are just like, "Oh, I don't know about putting my face on this." It's like, that's kind of important. You got to do it.
Yeah. You got to do it. You got to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But anything else I'll source from like Unsplash or something, usually for textures, especially like close-ups of leaves or burlap or like Canva, I can find stuff on too sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would agree with all that on the same thing. It's all over the place with what
Yeah.
clients have and that kind of thing. I will say one thing. Caitlyn and I both, because we're both design in Squarespace, our specialty is really service providers, and that's why we both are like, you kind of need your picture on your website. If you're selling products or widgets or something like that, it's
Yeah.
less important. You could get away with just a one pick on your about page and then maybe not even that.
Yeah.
But for a service provider, you're creating that relationship with your visitors and you need your face to be able to do that. So that's why we
Mhm.
say that.
Yeah.
Okay, tons of questions. Not everyone can think visually. Thank goodness you two can. Yeah, right, Tiana. That's why we're in the right gig for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and Bloom says that is the endless issue with websites. Great tip to not ask them to describe it. I had one that wanted angels, scrolls, fairies, sun and moon, and a few other things I can't remember now. Yes, right. We've all had those clients.
Yeah.
And Barb says, how many changes? Oh, this is the question. This is my question, Barb. How many changes do you allow the client to make after you show them the initial site? What if they hate it and want something completely different? We just recently rehashed this whole thing in the group. So you want to start?
Okay. So I skipped the mood board part because I have done that before. It confused the client. They literally loved it, approved it. I designed the whole site based on it, and they were like, "What is this?" I was like, "Okay, no one understands what a mood board is." So now I treat the homepage like a mood board. So I do the homepage first. It is one of the hardest pages to design, by the way,
For
for
sure.
strategy, but I start with it because it has most of the time the same kinds of sections on it, and it's easy to get started with. And then I finalize it later. So I do that first by the first Wednesday of the project. They have a chance to look at it. I present it. I try to present everything in person. It's just easier for me to read body language and see what their reaction is in real time. And I say, like, you'll have revisions. Like, if there's anything major, you can tell me now on the call, and then I'll take that and run with it for the rest of the site. I really just want to know if I'm on the right track. That's all I want to know when I present the homepage. This is not time for revisions. I have done that, but it ended up getting nitpicky about like copy or like minor things that we can tweak later. So typically I'll just say, this is the direction. Do you approve, not approve? Most of the time, honestly, I have very few revisions on that. When I go to do the rest of the site, I try to give them access to I use Markup to get revisions. So I give them the link to that. That's a software that lets them like literally pin their revision requests on the website.
Markup.io, if anybody wants
Yes,
to look it up.
it's fabulous. I'm still on the free plan, by the way.
Yeah.
Been using it for 4 years. Yeah. So they have access to that typically by the end of the Friday on the first week, and then they have the weekend to like get their shit together. And then the official timeline for revisions is Monday to Wednesday, end of day. So I don't care how many they put. I think the most I've ever had is 120 comments, 119, something like that. That's actually not that much. It was a very large website.
I was going to say that's really, that's not, because people can get really nitpicky and can really like, if they're really trying to give you all the revisions at one time, that's not crazy. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was very tolerable. I have also literally had big websites that had like 6 or 8.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so it's a pretty wide range, but since they have a deadline, it's like get in as much as you can, as much as you feel like you need. If they're pretty tech savvy, they're usually not that worried about it because they know the whole point of doing this on Squarespace is so that they can make some of these changes themselves. And I keep reminding them that too. Like, remember, it's going to be easy for you to tweak the copy. You can change out links. You can change out your photos. All of that's pretty easy. So we can get it as close to perfect during these 3 or so days. But like, you'll also be able to make changes on your own too.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Squarespace. It's amazing to be able to tell clients like, look, we're going to launch you live and like you can, or wait, and you can launch yourself. It's not hard. You just click go live and pay the hosting and it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to be able to tell them, look, it's not like WordPress where you're basically excluded from your website as soon as it goes live because there's this huge learning curve, like you're learning Calc 3 just to figure out how to, update some text in your site. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
I literally had a project in February with a photographer that came off of WordPress, and she was like, okay, but how do I change the drop down menu? And so screen sharing on the launch call, and I'm like, click, drag, drop. And she's like, oh,
right.
It's always that easy, Caitlyn. I was like, yes, it is.
It's always a treat to build for somebody who comes from the WordPress world because they're like, wait, what? It's like, what? What? They're amazed. Yeah, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
And I want to underline one really cool thing about the 2-week process that I think is kind of cool because I do not get the benefit of this because of how I do it with clients. But the thing about the 2-week process that's so cool is because they're on such a deadline, they don't take the homepage or any of the other pages and go, great. Okay, now I'm going to show this to like all of my relatives and my mom and my neighbor's dog and like everybody I knew from high school, and like get all their feedback and come back with like, and the thing that's so hard about that is it gets the client twisted up too. All that feedback isn't good for the client, you know? And so it really keeps them focused on what they want and what they came to you for. And it's just such a good thing.
Yeah. I would argue too, the other pro is that, especially in the beginning, if you have a really rigid process and you can predict how many projects you can take in a year, like how many spots you can fill, it does tend to make income planning a little easier. Otherwise, if you don't know how long it's going to take and you're juggling 5 at the same time, like maybe you can't really say, this is how many I could do in a year. Thus, this is how much I could make in a year, because you're just kind of guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Totally. I see that.
Yeah.
And I would add a couple things on top of what Caitlyn said that for me, so I do a couple of things. So one of the things I do is I have it in my contract that I only give 2 revisions. I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. Just so we all are clear, but it's a good idea to have something in your contract that spells out exactly how many revisions they're going to get. They only get 2. Usually they only need 1.
Yeah.
You don't usually need to do a ton. But the most important thing that I feel like I do is, and I know you do this too, is I have like in 4 different places in my intake process, I say, the quality of what I give you, your happiness with what I give you depends entirely on the quality and quantity of information you give me. And so if you don't fill out the questionnaire, that's fine. But when I sit down to build your site and I'm looking at your competitors and I'm doing competitor research and I'm looking at your social media and I'm looking at your Google reviews and I'm looking at the 3 websites I made you give me because you have to answer that question if you don't answer anything else. Right. When I do that and I take the initial swipe at your site, that's it. As soon as I give you that initial, and I do the same thing you do, homepage is the wireframe or the mock-up or whatever. I just build the homepage. And I'd say the same thing. I don't let them go into details with copy or anything. I'm like, are we on the right track with design? Colors, fonts, design elements, things like that, textures and stuff. And that's it. And if they come back and they're like, I hate this, this sucks. I'm like, well, I wish you'd have given me more content. You know, I wish you'd have given me more stuff to work from, because I certainly would have implemented that into your design. Do you want to go back to the drawing board? That'll cost you another X thousands of dollars, you know, or whatever, or we can move in revisions and into revision mode and make this work. To be clear, I have never once had that happen.
I haven't either. I'm so glad you said that. I was just thinking, I don't know if I'm an outlier in that, but I've literally never had a custom build go wrong, go sideways, not for a whole website.
Yeah. Not for a whole custom. Yeah. And it's usually because with my process, they either know that they're the kind of person who's like not picky. And so they're like, yeah, you know what you're doing. You're super smart. I trust you to build me a website that works. Go for it. And then they see it and they're like, oh my God, you did this and you never bothered me. I love you. You're fantastic. You know, and they just move on. Yeah. Or they're very picky, but they are in there. They're every question they're filling out and they're giving me all this great content that I use that I incorporate into the site. So, so anyway, that's my thing. And then once we go into revisions, it's 2 rounds of revisions. So, okay. So we got so many questions. You guys, this is so fun. Thank you guys for being so involved. I'm so excited. Yeah. Bloom says that's the endless issue with websites. Great tip to not ask. Oh yeah. We read that one. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, and Barb, that was the question we were on. That's how we got onto this thing. Thank you, Barb, for asking that.
What if they hate it? Want something completely different?
Yeah.
I would be curious to know in the chat if you've had that happen to you in the past, like a client want you to completely start over from scratch.
Yeah.
I would love to know.
Yeah. And how you handled it. And like, you know, because like I've never had a client completely hate something I've created. I have had a client, and here's the thing too, I want to say, I talk a hard line when we have these discussions, because I've been a designer for so long, and I'm like, you tell that client no, and you don't have to do that, and you push back, and this is all you get. Too bad, so sad. And I know I'm like that, and Caitlyn knows this. When I actually talk to the clients, I am always in a good mood. I always say yes. I never say the word no to a client ever, even if I'm pushing back on something. I'm always like, that's a great idea. It's fantastic. Here's how we can make that work. Either I can charge you more because that's a little bit outside the scope, or, we can do it this way. I can give you tutorials on how to, it's amazing. If a
Yeah,
client,
you're great at the sticky situations.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do like them. So yeah, anyway, so yeah. That's all. Okay, so let's keep going forward. So Lainey says, Diane, please share more of your experiences, processes, client experiences as well, and about the template restyle processes. Oh, fun. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm what else should I say about experiences, processes, client experiences? What holes have I missed?
Lainey, why don't you ask specifically what you want Diane to dive in more about, maybe?
Sure.
Maybe start with your template restyle process and let her think about the other stuff. And if she wants clarification, we'll
Perfect.
look for that.
Perfect. That sounds good. Yeah. So Caitlyn and I are both SquareKicker template designers. Yeah, which is amazing. We were super excited and thrilled to be picked for that and in this kind of first round. And so we both have templates in the SquareKicker store. And what I'm doing right now, the SquareKicker store isn't open yet. So you can go to squarekicker.com/templates. We'll put the link in the description after the live. You can go there and you can look up different templates, and you can register to win certain templates, which is actually kind of cool. Yeah. But until the SquareKicker store opens sometime in November, probably middle-ish November, we're still not sure. Yeah. I want more examples of my templates in the wild. So I am doing a super special, it's almost like half off of what I normally do. It's a 2-day process, customization process, where I will go in, pick the template you want from me. It's got to be for me. I can't design somebody else's. Pick one of my 3 templates that are in the store currently, and I will customize it for you. We'll just sit down for 2 days and comb through everything. And it's only $1,500, which, like I said, is a lot off of what I would normally charge.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's just because I want examples of those templates in the SquareKicker store.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm really excited. I'm already working on a bunch of them for clients, and they're so cool. Have you done anything with your templates since you put them in SquareKicker?
No.
It feels really cool to be working on them and being like, I made this. It's so fun. I'm enjoying it. And yeah, I'm happy to talk more about my processes and stuff and my client experiences. Just let me know what you want to know. Oh yeah, and Bloom. That's what I love about Wix too. I'm always shocked that people still put so much stock in WordPress.
Me too.
Me too. Me too. And I know we have a couple WordPress developers live on the call with us. We love you. WordPress is still the only game in town if you want to do something really interesting or unique. If you're really wanting to create something custom, WordPress is the only way to go. It's just the best option. But man, nowadays I just feel like that's not what 90% of businesses need. They need something that looks professional and sells their stuff, builds their list and sells their stuff.
The burger joint that I love in the next town over, they have a site on WordPress, and I went to go order online through them. So they have the Square connection where you can go through the Square site or whatever. That's not related to Squarespace for those who don't know. So Square site for the order menu system, and then a WordPress website. Their WordPress website was down last week. And I was just like, I could fix that, but I'm not gonna. I don't have time to do that right now.
There's another option.
It's because those types of businesses don't have IT people. They don't have in-house design staff. They probably don't even have the budget to hire someone to come fix it or manage it even. And so if that's the kind of business they have, I don't think that WordPress is the best option for those kinds of people, because it will break without attention.
Yeah. That's the amazing part to me too, is that you have to update, you have to maintain it. You have to
Yeah.
maintain it for it to stay secure. It's a requirement, and it's not cheap. It's not like Squarespace where you just go in and move a few things around to update the site. It's like you literally have to get in there and make sure that plugins work with other plugins. And when things break, you have to have somebody who's tech savvy enough to be able to put it all back together again. And yeah, for little teeny tiny businesses, it's just
They
too
just
hard.
can't manage that.
Yeah, right. And Joanne says, yay, love markup. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because Squarespace is so simple to use, though, have you ever found it hard to sell as a service investment since people can DIY it so easily?
No.
Absolutely no way. Yeah. You
No.
want to start on that?
Yeah, that, I think I just did an $8,000 project in February and an $8 or $9,000 project last fall. I mean, I think the selling point is that it's so easy because I can set it up for them. I can make it look like they did it based on their personality and their branding and all that stuff, and they can take it and run with it, and they feel confident in doing that. I think that's the selling point, actually. So what you're worried will become a con is actually a pro.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of the day, just because someone can build their own website doesn't really mean they should. And I think a lot of,
100%.
especially business savvy people who've been in business for a while and like they have a proven offer and they're doing their thing, they understand how important it is to have a well-designed site that does work with customer flow and has good user experience. What was that site that I dropped in the club like last week? Remember the user
Uh,
in your
yes,
face.com?
yes, yes. Oh,
We'll
it's
put
horrible.
it was amazing. We'll put the link in the description below too if you're watching the replay. But it's a user in your face, YER face.com, I think. And it's a perfectly legit site, but it's honestly it's beautiful in how many things they did wrong on that site.
I lasted about 30 seconds.
Oh my God. There's I think there were 4 screens or something. And it took me 11 minutes to get through it because the UX is so painful. It's like click here to get to the next thing, but the link isn't click here first of all, which is terrible. And it isn't that. And it's just amazing. If you're a designer, you're
It
gonna love
really makes me
it.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it points to that. Sorry, we're getting distracted, but it points to your point, Joanne, of like it requires more than just picking some colors and picking a theme and plugging in your content. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of particularly really experienced business owners know that, and they're very happy to pay me for my expertise for design and UX to build a site that works.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, which is also how you need to position yourself too. If you just say, I build really gorgeous websites, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but if it's better to say things like results driven and sites that work and your
Mhm.
sites
An
that can be
outcome.
an outcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
um and Bloom saying, yeah, great point about estimating income. Walt's agreeing, yes, love you guys. And then other questions.
Yeah, it looks like Bloom was saying a handful of times over the years, a complete restart, I think is what she was referring to, but not with websites, typically more with like graphic stuff. That's one of the reasons why I quit working on print related stuff because I'm tired of that. I've been doing that
Yeah.
for years.
Yes. Okay. Oh, and Lane or Laney, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, is saying templates, please. So more about the templates.
Okay.
I don't know what to say about the templates. I would love to tell you more about the templates. I love the templates.
So maybe, Lane, are you asking selling them, delivery, audience, marketing, what kind of all the things? What kind
Yeah,
of details?
because I can touch on a little bit of that. Because you and I both got on the template bandwagon earlier this summer, and we were talking about, because we were before we even got accepted into SquareKicker, we were both talking about we wanted to maybe have our own template shops, and just because it's such a cool thing. It's the template thing is very interesting to me because it saves us time.
Mhm.
but it also, clients really like it. I initially thought that clients would feel very limited by it, but clients like it because they see what they're getting. So not
Mhm.
only are they getting a deal, but they're looking at what their site is kind of going to look like, and it eases a lot of anxiety for them. And they've been really easy to sell, I have found. So, and it is a different market. One of the things Caitlin and I have also talked about is that as soon as you open a template shop, you start attracting more designers, which is really interesting too, because I never have really had designers in my audience before, but I love talking about these like sticky client situations. And so I'm kind of intrigued about having that more. But it's interesting to have all of a sudden other designers be in our niche as well. So
Yeah. It
anything
was
else
a
to add to
weird,
that?
yeah, it was a weird pivot for me too. I don't know when that happened for me. I mean, because I've been blogging since 2015 or 16. I started over on Weebly, so when I moved over to Squarespace, I brought blogs with me.
Mm,
So it's been almost 10 years,
mhm,
and I don't really know when it switched to people following me to see what I was doing versus following me to understand how to do it themselves.
mhm.
But yeah, it's an interesting split. I mean, I'm glad that it happened, but it was totally not on purpose.
How funny. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider if you're thinking about offering templates
Yeah, because
or
you're
that.
gonna attract DIY people that want the template potentially, as well as if you market it well enough, the service to customize it or reskin it or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Barb says, good talking point for WordPress folks. Most don't want to spend time every week on their website. I mean, true story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's not
Especially,
like it's a bad thing, but if you don't have it, don't have the skills, don't have the time, it's not the right place.
right? And if
Yeah.
you are going to spend time every week updating your site, I would so much rather you updated the content and wrote a
Yeah.
blog post or tweaked your offering, or, you know what I mean? Like something that's going to increase your revenue, not just like put band-aids on the back end,
Yeah, I love that.
right? Yeah. Okay. And so Megan says, Floating Lotus Design says, a lot of DIYers become clients. Yeah, for sure. I see
Mhm.
that. And Alan says, do you have concerns over AI web builders? Does Squarespace have their own AI tools now? They do. They're rolling out literally as we speak. Is it available to the public yet or just Circle members, Caitlin?
I honestly don't know. I think it has been maybe public for a while, but, like, just the bare bones of it. They're still building out more on it,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure how much.
Yeah. So yeah, they're just rolling out their AI builder now, and it's very cool. It's you're kind of picking the section you want, and it's guiding you through. It's a decent process. It's pretty good. And I know Wix has a version of this too. But the Squarespace one looks like it's got a good, I mean, just with the way Squarespace does everything, man, the UX is just good. Um, and I can see why it would make some web designers nervous. It honestly doesn't make me nervous for all the stuff we talked about before. If I start to feel the pinch, it would just encourage me to uh, get more specific about the solution that I provide, and really talk that up. Not necessarily niche necessarily, but the solution, like this is what my websites give you. This is what my expertise gets you. Yeah, Caitlin.
I'm with you. I could honestly care less. I'm sure there will be a point in which that maybe changes, but for right now, it's not good enough to even come remotely close to what we do on our own.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I feel too. And Walter says, I used to work for an IT company who needed a website and farmed it out to another company. We were coders, they were designers. It was an excellent decision. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keeping everybody in their wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah,
Bloom says, preach. So over graphic design after doing it for so long.
can relate.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
and Rachel, where to find your beautiful templates, Diane? I love you guys. These are my buddies in here. You guys are so amazing. Yeah. So my templates. So you can find my templates and Caitlin's too in the Square Kicker store, squarekicker.com/templates. But if you want to look for mine and particularly my customization uh, package, go to my website. It's swayrisecreative.com, and that's /templates. I think.
Really testing you here.
I think that's what it is. We've done a lot of work on it in the last few days, so I'll put that link in the description too. Okay, so of course I can believe it that we're winding down to the last 5 minutes, and it's kind of, I mean, we there were so many other things that you and I had that we wanted to talk about that we didn't even touch on. We were going to talk about like trends and like kind of my whole fiasco that I went through with my site, and all kinds of stuff. Well, the next time we'll do it next time.
Okay.
Okay. So I know we're going to talk about Paige's thing really quickly, but do you want to talk about the club for a minute and just talk about like the community that you built and how awesome it is?
Sure. I don't know if I could speak to that. I love it. I'm glad that you love it. I was doing the monthly student Q&A calls with Paige for her students in Square Secrets and Square Secrets business, and I loved the engagement and the interaction, and I just wanted more of that. And so I decided to create my own community. So that launched last summer, and it has been kind of happening in the background. I have not been advertising it, but we've got about 100 people in there. I think we have 10-ish people in the all access, which is you and like the people that hop on the monthly call with me. And it's been really, really fun. We're just in there supporting each other, answering each other's questions. It's the highlight of my week, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really awesome to give Caitlyn and the club a quick plug. Caitlyn provides a ridiculous amount of one-on-one support. Like if you have any questions, you can ask them in there, and she will give you Loom videos and tutorials and like help you. And also link to her past blog post. There's 5 that she's written on that topic, and so it's a very, very cool community. And I have already made so many good friends in there, so it's a really great place. And then let's talk about Paige's thing. So one of the reasons that we're doing this today is to talk about Paige Brunton and her free 3-day boot camp that's coming up next week. It starts on Monday, right? That's day 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. I go every time she does it. She only does it twice a year. And even though we are both students of hers, we've both been through Square Secrets business, but I still go to the free boot camp every year. It's amazing. You hear from other designers, and it's just so nice. Just like in the same way that this is awesome to hear how other designers are doing things, you're getting to hear from them, and it's super cool. And I'm speaking on the first day. I'm on a panel, so
I know I'm going to be there. I'm going to watch you.
Yay.
No pressure.
Right, no pressure. But it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, anything you wanted to, and we each have links. We each have our own links, and we'll each put our links in our descriptions for our videos, because this is streaming to Caitlyn's channel too.
Yes, it is.
Anything else you want to add about Paige's thing? Because that's where you learned your 2-week process.
Yes.
And like that's where you got your start, right?
Yeah, it was. I think I took it 2018, 2019. And so that's where I got the 2-week process. That's where I got the timeline. That's where I got the content guides as they started way back then. They're a lot different now. They've gone through many iterations since then. But yeah, everything so much of the foundational stuff that I use and still run my business in came from what I learned from her. So if you want to learn from Paige, you want to get in there to ask questions. I mean, this is like the golden hour for access to her, because she is quite literally in there nearly 24/7 for like 10-ish days while the boot camp group is live. And so if you ever were asking questions in your head, like, how on earth do you post 2 posts a week? Like, what if you want to ask her any of the things, that is the place. Because that's the only time you're ever really going to get the chance to do that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. And I love Paige's content. Paige is the only other human being that I have read as much or more than I have read of Caitlyn's content. So like the 2 of them up there are like, they're amazing. So, so check out those links in the description too. And everybody, thank you so much for being here today. This was wonderful. And Caitlyn, thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome. So much fun. I know we're going to do it again, because we have so much to talk about with this stuff. And thank you. This was great.
Thank you for having me, Diane.
Awesome. All right.